So before there were analog audio recordings, there were player pianos. They used a punched paper roll to record and play back pieces of music. If a piano was out of tune, it played the piece out of tune. And the roll could be transferred to another player piano if it used the same format, such as the size of the holes, the thickness of the paper, etc. Midi is essentially a 20th century piano roll. It contains no sound, but it's instructions for performance. It was developed because back in the day, keyboardists had to haul around a bunch of different keyboards made by different manufacturers in order to get the sounds that they wanted. So the companies got together and designed the Musical Instrument Digital Interface, or Midi. It was announced in 1982 and was a standard digital communication protocol between the keyboards about how to play notes and how to control output volume, etc. Now MIDI messages enable greater control of synthesizers and also for control of other recording gear and even stage lighting. So MIDI has status bytes and data bytes. The status byte says what type of message will follow, such as a note on, and the data byte says which note. For instance, note number 60 is middle C. Data bytes are 8 bits long, which mean 127 possible values, and since we're working with computers, counting starts at 0. So that means that most MIDI messages only have a possible range of 0 to 127, but pitch bend messages are 2 bytes long. The MIDI file does not contain actual sounds. It only contains instructions for what sound should be played, how it should be played, and when it should be played. A MIDI file then must send its commands to some kind of sound generator, which then makes the sound by following the MIDI sequencer's command. For comparison, a 1-second digital audio file at CD quality is 700K, while a 3-minute MIDI file can be just 3K. With MIDI, we aren't recording the note information. Instead, we're recording the performance information. MIDI has many advantages over audio. You can change the instrument which is playing very easily. You can reverse sequences without reversing envelopes. You can slow down, speed up, or transpose without getting artifacts. And you can easily remove notes from a polyphonic texture. MIDI is incredibly seductive. However, it can sound mechanical. MIDI is not quite as expressive as audio recordings of performances unless you spend a lot of time automating your effects. So today I'm playing my electric cello. The electric cello still produces an acoustic signal. It's just that the amplification of the string happens through electricity instead of through a hollow body which is resonating the acoustic cello. My electric cello is pretty cool because it actually can send MIDI to the computer. If I'm not sending MIDI, it sounds pretty much like a regular cello. I can change my attack. And the position of my bow on the string changes the timbre of the instrument as well. So when I play close to the bridge, it's called ponticello, and this accentuates the higher frequencies. The opposite is called sul tasto, when you play closer to the fingerboard, and it sort of mutes the signal a bit. Even my left hand can change the music. I can play with a lot of vibrato, or with none, which is kind of hard for me because I play with vibrato most of the time. I can even slide between notes, and this is called a glissando. Now I'm going to turn down my acoustic signal and turn on MIDI. Notice, if I slur my notes, the attacks on the MIDI are still identical. So what I like to do if I'm using MIDI to get a different kind of sound out of my instrument is to mix just a little bit of my acoustic signal back into the MIDI signal to keep that expressivity of the human performance. If you don't play an instrument, you can always hum or whistle. You can tap your desk just to bring those subtle variations to the MIDI signal. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time automating your effects to bring that human performance quality out. I'm not saying don't use MIDI. I'm saying really try to make it as expressive as you can. There are sound libraries for MIDI with samples of real instruments, but they still only contain 16 samples per note. Even the most expensive MIDI piano pales in comparison to the real thing, which has nearly infinite variations in tone. So for this class, I encourage you to use audio files as much as possible. They're usually richer and more nuanced.